morning, welcome back to the channel, and as you've seen from the title and the thumbnail, I'm going old school today. The MOD survival knife. I'm going to do most of my wood prep and fire lighting with this knife. Now, I did use this on a video quite a while back, but have had quite a few people suggesting that Selvans that I've been testing out is no better than an MOD knife. So why not do a video on it? Just to fill you in, this one I had off a friend of mine a year or so ago. He had rehandled it many years ago. When I used it the last time, I did find it was a bit slippery. So I've just covered it in some in the tube, which should do the job. It's just fine. It's obviously not stock, it's been sharpened. Hasn't really seen that much use. It's not super sharp, so the plan is I'm going to do my fire with it first, and then later on I'm going to sharpen it up on a Waterstone. So keeping it old school, not going to use any diamonds, just this, and this is half a Kingstone, 1000 grit, 6000 grit, and I'm going to pop this in the river for about an hour, get it all nice and wet. Fire lighting duties, I'm going old school again. I found this match safe in the house. I can't even remember where this came from. It's just a very basic, I don't think it's expensive, match safe. I've put some grip tape, abrasive sticky on the bottom to light it, and I can actually light a strike anywhere match on this knurled surface, but it's not particularly great, so that's why I put that on there. And that's all I've got in here, strike anywhere matches, old school, which you just can't get in the UK anymore. After I've lit the fire and sharpened it up, I'll try it out, make a feather sticks, light it with a ferro rod, just to see how this thing compares to that Selvans. And I'm not sure how much these are now, probably about £100, and the Selvans is £450-ish. So let's see, have the commenters got it right and said you're basically better off using one of these? We'll see. Let's get this fire going, get the tea on. Before that, I just want to mention the sheaths. These are terrible. These are absolutely awful. And for some reason, they come left-handed. I've never, ever seen a right-handed one. Considering that most of the population of the world is right-handed, it doesn't make much sense. That is so high up there, it's just not worth having. And years ago, when I had one of these as my main user, when I was a young fella, I put an extra loop on there to keep it in, and that worked just fine. But yes, they're not great sheaths. Let's prep some wood. I'll just use these old ones up. If the ground is damp, I usually aim them into my hat. It's nice and dry today, so I just let them go all over the ground. I did find some nice dry twigs on my way in, so it'd be a bit silly not to use them. Obviously, if it was wet, I would just keep splitting. Now, one thing I'm finding as I'm building this, I'm getting a bit of a void here, so I want to fill that with fine stuff. It's been a while since I lit the fire this way. I'm not really keen on doing it this way. Light matches. Now, if you're a regular viewer, perhaps you realise I always say use 2. These matches are small. They don't produce a massive amount of heat, so use 2. It's better using 2 now and getting it lit rather than using 1 and then you burn through a bit of stuff and then it goes out. So I'd say use 2. Bit of a breeze today, so I'm going to come right in here and I'm going to get these as far underneath as I can. Now the heat is built up, the flames are going up, so I think we're sorted. Now what I tend to find with this type of teepee fire layers, you're going to get a lot of stuff part burnt around the side, so a nice pair of gloves, all them little bits that haven't burnt, instead of just leaving them there, just pick them up, put them on top. There's quite the heat coming off that. Hot enough to boil a kettle. I've had quite a few comments recently asking what kettle I'm using. I'm usually getting about 1 or 2 per video. That is the GSI stainless kettle and it's excellent. Right then, I'm going to get this sharpening stone in the river. While I've been having my cup of tea, my fire has died down and it's decided not to burn very well. I've got a massive pile of embers, so it's far from dead, but I need to do a bit of reconstruction now, get the flames back up, get it burning efficiently, cut down the smoke. Basically what I'm going to do is take some of the larger rounds out, because they're obviously a little bit on the damp side, and I'm going to put them in a crisscross configuration, build the heat back up. That didn't take much effort, did it? So if I want to put my kettle back on, now's the time. I've got plenty of flames. It's also the time to dry any larger wet stuff. Now before somebody says use a saw, it's more efficient, this video is all about using this. Ivy bow drill hearts. I can't particularly be bothered to do any bow drills these days. I'm all bow drilled out. Now 30 odd years ago, when a young, fresh-faced, unbearded Rob Evans used to come to these woods and use one of these knives, I didn't have a clue about feather sticks. The only feather sticks I'd ever seen were the ones in the Lofty Wiseman survival manual, which basically weren't tinder feather sticks at all. They were more like kindling feather sticks, just small shavings in a stick. That's all I'd ever seen, and I did occasionally use them. But the method I used when I lit the fire, or basically just making a pile of shavings and introducing the match in, that's what I used to use. But I'm going to make a proper feather stick now with this thing. Still haven't sharpened it. Basically exactly the sort of edge that I would have put on when I was 18 or whatever, when I had one of these. So let's give it a go making a feather stick. Well, it's not too bad, considering it doesn't shave, it's not shaving sharp or anything. But I've made some fine curls, and I'm pretty sure they'd go up with a ferro rod. So they're not bad at all. So this knife, actually, with a pretty crappy edge, is still better than 450-pound Selvans at making feather sticks. I'll try the knee method. Thing is, with a blade that size and that weight, making a feather stick this way, it tends to wobble, so trying to get it firm is the key. I can't fault that. I really can't fault that. For a knife like this, I can't fault that. Ferro rod. Like my fire rod today. We'll try the static method first. I can't fault it. I just burnt myself. Well, that's still got a coating on it. Obviously the coating's been worn a bit over the years, but that strikes a bet. That strikes a ferro rod better than the Selvans. Unbelievable. Can't fault it. Obviously this knife has had a few modifications. The guard's been cut off there, and I did that with my original one years ago. Had to be done. I rounded the handle off on my original one as well, so it didn't far off feel the same as this one. This one's got a change of scales, it's got applewood scales on it, but as I said, they're a little bit slippery, so I put this rubber on it, which has not been very good for chopping. It's just moved everywhere, so I'm going to have to address that. Now I was toying with playing about with this knife. I was thinking of taking the handle off, taking the grind up to there to make it a sabre grind, a sabre vex, and putting my carter handle on it. Do you know, I'm still undecided about that. I may do it, I may not, because it actually works just fine as it is. I'm just going to put something grippy that doesn't move on the handle. The sheath is terrible, so there's a good chance I'll make a nice slab sheath for it, because I really don't like that sheath. They are crap. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go all bushcrafty, and I'm going to see if I can get a spark with a piece of flint and light some charcoal off. After I've done that, I'm going to sharpen it. I'm not going to sharpen it perfectly. I'm just going to use that stone, and I'm going to sharpen it like I'd sharpen an axe, circular motions to put a bit of a convex on it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to go to town, I'm not going to make a massive fuss. I just want to put a good usable edge on it. And to be fair, apart from the little chip that's there, it's been shaving just fine. I think I'll have a cup of tea first. Flint. Char cloth. Not the best char cloth in the world. A bit more here. I don't know if this is going to work. It's a carbon steel blade, should do. I'll do it the Dave Canterbury way, where I'll use the knife to pin the charcloth down. I'm not getting a spark out of that. I'm not going to damage my knife anymore. I'm going to leave it there. Ooh. Still got an edge on it. I'm going to fish that stone out now. Give it a sharpen. Nice and wet. Start off with 1000 grit. I better move because the smoke's going all shapes. I'm moving around because the smoke's going all shapes. Well, that's one side done. Obviously I didn't take that chip out because I'll be here all day with 1000 grit. Do the other side. What I'm aiming for, as I said earlier, was to put a slight convex on it. The knife's rocking back and forth, the stone's rocking back and forth, so it's naturally convex in it. Well, there's quite a bit of bite on that now. Do a little bit more on this 1000 and then I'll switch to the 6000. I think that's enough. Doesn't really take long. I'm going to dunk these both in the river now, give them a swill. Right, nice and clean. I've left them wet. Not much point drying the knife off. It's not going to rust in 2 minutes I'm going to take to do this. Now, years ago I never used a strop. I do have a strop with me, but I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to put it on a strop. I'm going to test this edge now. It's sharp, it's not brilliant though. No, it's not shaving. I think I need to give it a little tickle again. And what I'm going to do this time, I'm just going to go one way. Yep, that's improved it. Put a bit of a bite on it. The chip is still there, but it's a bit smaller now. If I wanted to get this chip out, I would just use a far rougher stone. Right, let's shave a stick. It's an improvement. It's not a vast improvement, but you considering it doesn't take very long doing it that method. Good knife. I know it's not stock. Handle's been changed. It's been sharpened. That's been cut off. So it's not exactly stock. But I think if you buy one of these knives now, I think the coating's a lot thicker on them. So if you want to do any ferro rodding or any scraping, you're going to need to take it off. Most of the coating will come off. The more you chop, the more you batten, the more you use it, it's going to come off anyway, especially on the edge. I can't fault that knife. And I'm going to go out on a limb here and I'm going to say, I think I'd prefer to use that than the Selvans. £459 worth of Italian steel. I prefer made in Sheffield, survival knife of the British Army. Was it Air Force, one or the other? Yeah, I prefer that any day of the week. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate your comments and I certainly appreciate a thumbs up. I'll see you next time. Ta-ra. It'll chop, it'll split, it'll shave. What else do you want in a survival knife? Don't ask me, I don't know. I know, you know, saws on knives are just a complete waste of time. That's all they do is chew up your batten if you're splitting wood. They're too short to make any real difference. So saws on knives are a thing of the past. Leave them with John Rambo in 1982.